All right, welcome back to another episode of the little podcast thing me and Henry have going on. We did this for the last English assignment. Now we have another one right here. All right. So I want to start off with a few questions for everybody here. Actually, let me introduce everybody. We have Caden right there on the FaceTime call. He's currently not here, so we have to call him through that. He's the paramedic. We have Dylan right here, aka Jamie, who's holding up the phone right now. We have Henry, my co-host, right here, who
Hello.
will be continuing the discussion, and then we have Sam over here, who's he's the sound boy, he's the audio boy.
Yeah.
All right. So all right, let's just start off with a question. How's everybody doing today? Okay.
Did you hear that? Okay.
My son's not working.
Sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. It's been a pretty good day.
What about you guys?
That's good.
How
That's
you
good.
I'm doing good.
I'm doing pretty well as well.
I would be doing a little better if we didn't have to talk about fentanyl, but you know what? I'm
All right.
always glad.
All right. So, Caden, these next few questions are going to be directed towards you, okay?
Okay.
All right. So the first one is, why did you become a paramedic? Why did you want to do that?
I just wanted to do it my whole life just because, like, my dad does it, so I just grew up around it.
Alrighty.
And it's a really fun job and stuff.
And what was it like your first time treating a patient who was affected by fentanyl?
My first time, it was kind of not super surprising just because we talk about it a lot in class and trained a lot for it. So when I saw it for the first time, I was kind of prepared for it.
All right. And what are these patients like physically? What's it like dealing with them? What do you need to do to, save them?
So physically, what you look at with someone so fentanyl is like a narcotic, so any narcotic overdose, you look for and treat like life-threatening things first. So like respiratory depression with narcotic use is like a super big thing. So the first thing or the major thing that kind of goes out is your breathing. So the whole point in giving Narcan is to not necessarily like people think to wake them up, but just to bring back their breathing.
All right.
Because you have to also be aware that if you wake them up with the Narcan, you're taking away their high, so they can come out of their high very angry with you and combative.
All right. And what are the patients like emotionally? Are they aware of what's happening, or are they like unconscious? Oh yeah. Yeah.
We've got.
Yeah. And on to the next question. What are they like emotionally? Are they aware, or are they like unconscious of what's going on?
So it kind of depends on like what stage, I guess, in the call that you're in. Like before you give the Narcan, usually they are completely like unconscious. They're not aware of their surroundings. They're sometimes like we stimulate them in certain ways. So, like we have like a painful stimulus. So you have verbal painful stimulus that you kind of do like when you first walk up to them. So you try and say hi to them, talk to them, and if they don't talk back to you, they have no verbal stimulus.
All right.
Painful response, you have like you can give them a sternal rub. You're just trying to give them a little bit of pain to see if they react to it, and usually they do not. So usually they're completely unconscious. Once you give them the Narcan, depending on how much that you give them, they may become more alert to verbal stimulus, which is verbal is better than painful because that means that they're awake and aware of things.
All right.
So it just kind of depends on what treatment that you've done so far.
All right. Another question is, how often do you guys get calls about people who are overdosing on fentanyl or stuff like that?
A lot of times, especially where I work at, it's not necessarily just fentanyl, it's more just narcotics in general. Sometimes what can happen is elderly people can be prescribed narcotics from a doctor after like a surgery or something like that. And sometimes they can forget certain things and forget that they took the medication, maybe they take more, and so then they overdose on it accidentally. So it can be a common thing. It just kind of depends. I would say like Milwaukee specifically, we don't have as big of a problem of it as like Des Moines has, just simply because of like population wise. But it's I would say it's probably maybe a monthly occurrence.
Okay. And do you think that like the amount of calls you get is like escalating, or do you think it's like stagnant and not moving up, or do you think you're getting like more calls more often?
Like the amount of calls pertaining to fentanyl.
Yeah, like let's say like when you started, has like the number of calls increased the like through your duration of working at the department as a paramedic?
I mean, I would say if anything, they've stayed like the exact same.
Okay.
They definitely haven't gone down. I wouldn't say.
Okay.
But I would say just drug use in general definitely has gone up.
Okay.
In like the year and a half that I've been there. So.
All right. Wow. Do you guys have any other questions for Caden?
I got a couple for
All right,
Caden,
go
but
ahead.
I just want to start. Caden, when you arrive on a call and you see somebody that is passed out, is there any test that you do to see what kind of, you said narcotics, but like, is there a test that you give to see what exactly they're passed out on, or does it matter?
So there are like, so specifically with like a narcotic overdose, it talks about like the respiratory depression. That can be one of the more like dangerous things. So you want to automatically rule out a narcotic overdose. So usually like pupils will tell you a lot. So they'll have like pinpoint pupils, which are really small pupils. And that's like a huge indicator of narcotic overdose. So that's kind of when you know to give your Narcan. Obviously, like if they have respiratory depression, if they're not breathing, probably a narcotic overdose. And then also just surroundings. So like, do they have needles and syringes around them? Is there like a needle hanging out of their arm? Is there like weird substances around them? Is there people around them, like friends that, you know, at like a party that can tell you what they took? Those are all like big key indicators you can look for. And sometimes if you're not sure giving Narcan, it's not necessarily going to hurt them. So sometimes it's kind of our last resort. Like, we don't know why they're unconscious, so give them the Narcan and see what happens.
Anything else?
Do you have any?
None for me.
I think that was good.
All right, Kane. Well, I want to thank you for your time. This was incredibly informative, and I just want to thank you and have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
No problem. All right, see you later.
All right, see you. See you guys.
See ya.
Take care.
Yeah.
Are you gonna hang out?
Sorry.
All right, no,
We'll
you
edit
can
that
scoot
in
a little bit more.
post.
Now you can be a part of the remainder of our time here today. All right, so overall that was quite informative. We got to know more about the ins and outs of the paramedic side of actually helping them.
I felt like I was in Caden's shoes there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Have you ever witnessed an overdose happen?
Not personally.
Okay.
I've seen some videos on Twitter though.
Oh, yeah.
And
It's
Channel 5.
it's quite a common thing these days.
I mean, it's unfortunate the amount of people that are succumbing to it. So,
yeah.
I mean, you guys just want to toss around a few questions, something like that? Like I can start and we can just keep on getting, generate a discussion, a discord among
sure.
us.
Well, I have a question. Where in the States is it most common?
In the United States?
Yeah.
Probably in like the higher populated areas, just where there's
cities.
more, more people.
I know there's a huge population in LA.
How do you think we go about stopping this issue?
That's actually what I was about to say, something similar. Do you guys see a potential solution to the fentanyl crisis, or?
It's so hard just because it's really not a traceable thing. It gets passed around, it exchanges so many hands the way that it's just work because it's illegal. So there's nothing you can do legally wise to get rid of it. So it's more a matter of how do you stop the flow of it.
Yeah, and
How we can look to better help the people that are affected by it.
yeah.
True, that's another big
And
one.
for some people, it might be too late to try to stop. Their
Exactly,
body
yeah.
is too dependent on it, and
Right.
if
We
you
need
were
to
to,
See if
Help some research maybe something that's a little quicker than what we had right now.
Yeah.
Narcan. I mean, I'm not sure if Caden addressed it, but Narcan doesn't necessarily save you. It just brings you back, and then
For
if
brief moment,
brief moment, and then you'll be back out.
So one of the solutions that has worked in places like in a bunch of places in Europe, like in Portugal and stuff like that, is they actually decriminalized the use of illicit drugs like that. But with that, before they did that, they had the proper harm reduction and rehab like facilities. So do you guys think that something like that, if that were to be placed in America with the right I guess safety nets in place so that it doesn't fail, do you guys think that could be a good solution to alleviating the fentanyl crisis?
You know, it's hard to say because there's a lot of cases where I would like to think that everybody that's on any sort of addictive substance like that would like to get off, but at the same time, sometimes it's just so addictive that you just can't picture your life without it, and you like there's some people that just don't want to be off it. But I would hopefully the majority of people that actually like would get those resources and try to get help would actually be able to have some progress.
And I don't know if you guys heard, but you know how back in 2020 there was the big thing with Portland decriminalizing.
Yeah.
They actually have recriminalized every drug because
Really?
of how they essentially failed. They decriminalized it, but they didn't have anything in
Was
place.
that not the most successful thing here?
Huh?
Was that not the most
No,
successful thing
I mean it's one of the only places, at least here in America, that I know that have at least
I
tried to
remember hearing about
decriminalize.
that, yeah.
But
I
they didn't put
Right.
anything in place to help the people.
The reason that it worked in Europe is because they had the support systems in place before they
Yeah,
decriminalized.
exactly.
And we just didn't have that.
We didn't have that, so maybe if we were to incorporate that into America, that could change stuff. Or
It's valuable to have that experience though if it didn't work, so that you know, okay, that's not gonna work. So we have to go about it a different way.
yeah,
Regardless, I feel like this is an issue that a lot of Congress and people in general are tending to ignore.
yeah, it's going under the
Sure.
radar. No, unless you live in these places and you're affected by it,
Where you see it every day.
yeah, not a lot of people think it's that serious or that they're just like go to rehab. It's sometimes not that simple for some people. They
Right.
just can't.
And
Exactly.
a lot of people like they're so unaware of what actually goes on. They're like, well, these people, they're just gonna die anyway, so who cares?
Exactly. And
So
so
you
this,
have more compassion as people.
Right.
and maybe there's a lot of layers to that that we can't possibly dive into.
Right. We just don't have
Because
time to
we
do
don't
that.
we don't have time.
Exactly.
We don't have the
Exactly.
answers to some of these questions that we're looking for.
Exactly.
And this next question is kind of delivered towards you, Dylan. And the whole group can answer it. But how does fentanyl get into the streets of America or just in the world in general?
So what I've learned from watching documentaries from a man I know as Andrew Callahan, who owns a channel named Channel 5, he's told me that the way that they get these fentanyls into America is from the cartel actually, and they brew into these places and then they congregate with the already established drug people that are giving out the drugs and distributing the fentanyl, and then they become distributors for them to become distributors for other people and spread that across all of America essentially. And we're seeing that happen in places like Kensington, and we're just seeing the
San
results.
Francisco.
Yeah, and then to the point where most of the city is uninhabitable because of how much people are walking around on drugs, to the point where they had to make an open air drug market that a lot of people don't talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do I've heard stuff about China somehow being involved in the pharmaceutical industry. Do you have any knowledge on that? Or
Oh, I know you can get a Chinese tranquilizer, yeah, imported from China, and it's even worse than the tranquilizer you get here,
and
it's legal too.
and doesn't China also supply the cartels with the materials and the ingredients necessary to make fentanyl? And
I believe I've heard something along the lines of that.
Yeah, I believe that was discussed in the Channel 5 video. All right, and any other questions to add to the discussion from you guys?
I have a question. So
Yeah.
in Portugal, you said that they legalized it, but they had systems already in
Well, they
place.
decriminalized.
It was
Decriminalized.
Portugal.
Yeah,
Portugal.
decriminalized.
Yeah.
Not Portugal.
No. Portugal
Yeah,
was
Portugal.
a successful.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm talking
yeah.
about
Portugal,
Portugal.
like other places in Europe. That's just like
Oh,
the
okay.
main one.
So my
Sorry, I
question
thought we were
about
talking-
that
yeah.
is, how much harder would it be to implement here?
I'm a competitor. I want to win.
Without being cut. Kiss that, kiss that, kiss that. Kiss that, kiss that, kiss that. Kiss on the road, kiss that, road, kiss that, road, kiss on the road. down, toes ten down, toes ten down. That roll, toe, get, get back, get back, kiss that, kiss that, kiss that, kiss that, kiss that.
Because it's a much bigger country.
Yeah,
and
it's,
that would be a lot
it's
harder.
much bigger. There's a lot more people. They would need to put a lot more resources, money, and time into
See, the
it.
government officials need to start. putting
Yeah,
more.
so if they were to pass these bills or whatever they do, then there could be change, but with the current rate, they really don't care. So,
Right.
yeah.
Spend all of our time in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And money.
So, do we have anything else to add to the discussion, guys? Any final...
My prayers go out to all the people who are addicted to these horrible substances
What do you hope?
and their families.
What do you hope America looks like in the stance we have on fentanyl in 5 years?
In 5 years?
What would you hope for?
What would I hope for? I would hope that it's not as much of a taboo in the American political sphere, and that these politicians could address it, and they wouldn't be met with people just tossing it aside as a problem that they don't have to deal with. And I think that goes back to kind of what you were talking about, how it's with empathy.
Mm-hmm.
If some people will look at other people, strangers, and be like, I don't really care what happened to them because I don't know them. That's some people, not all people.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if people can move out of that mindset and be like, this is a human life and it's all equal, and then maybe we can move on to the civilians at least. And there is also a lot of good people that will go out and give food to these people on the streets, give them clothes or whatever.
Sometimes it takes for you to see it up close for you to realize it, or for it to happen to somebody you know.
Yeah, and that's another, because it's not happening in places where, like, you're not gonna go to, I don't know, the middle of Iowa, somewhere in, like, I don't know, Boone. You're not gonna go to Boone, Iowa. Maybe Boone, Iowa. Boone's a little bit bigger. You're not gonna go to
Earlham.
Fort Dodge.
No, what's that one place on the road here when you're driving up to Saylorville?
No?
Sailor.
That's not.
I mean,
It's from Slater.
Slater?
Yeah, like you're not gonna go to Slater, of a small town of probably less than 1,000 people maybe. You're not gonna see fentanyl there, and so these people might just not.
in these bigger cities, it's more of an issue. Yeah.
The people might not really care about it.
Right.
So,
But that's another thing that goes along with education. You have to make sure that people know it's a problem. Because I think a lot of the problem is that it's not talked about a lot.
yeah.
We don't discuss it in the political sphere. We don't discuss it a whole bunch in the school system. So it goes, unless you do your own research, it goes pretty well undiscussed.
Yeah, not a lot of people talk about it, and when I'm, and I know this might be a bad example because it's personalized to the user, but when I'm going on Twitter, I never see anything about this. When you go on Twitter, it's always conflicts like Ukraine, Israel, O.J. Simpson, rest in peace.
Well,
It's just respect the dead man, okay? Just respect him, all right? He could tote that rock, okay? All right. But it's all this bigger stuff that doesn't really relate to I guess the common folk, the average American or something like that. So yeah. Do we have anything else to add to this? Because I feel like this Discord has been
Productive.
It's been productive. It's been we've created a discussion.
Speaking of Discord, are we getting anything going with that? Are we getting a Discord going together?
Yeah.
I do have one thing. I was reading here about the lethality of fentanyl, and it was very surprising. I found out that...
Oh, hey, could you cite the source real quick?
Yeah, sure. So this comes from the DEA.
Oh, yeah.
So the what is it, Department of...
DEA agent Hank Schrader.
No, DEA, like the government
Recipes.
agency.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, let me just... the DEA is the Drug Enforcement Administration.
Yeah.
For all those who don't know. So I feel like it's a pretty credible source, but they list on here that it only takes like 2 milligrams to kill a person of fentanyl. And that's such a tiny dose.
Yeah.
And like fentanyl is trafficked in by the kilos to
For
the
those
places
who are
where it's
aware,
going.
Can you let me know just how much is 2 milligrams?
I can
like
look
in
it up.
like a visual representation.
I'll send a picture.
Well, I can't really show you, but we can look up some images to just show what a 2 milligrams.
I think that'd be
spec
good
would
for
look
the
like.
audience to see.
Yeah, I agree, because it really isn't.
Just to put in perspective how little of amount.
Yeah.
So right here, this is a good example. As you can see, the vial with more stuff in it is heroin, and the vial with less stuff in it is fentanyl.
And those are both lethal
And
doses.
they're both, yeah, as you guys can see. Well, yeah, lethal doses of both, I think.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So the doses in both vials are equally.
Equally as
Equally
they'll both
as-
kill you, but you
okay.
can see in the.
But there's a lot less.
A
in
lot
the-
less
Tastes
in
a
the
whole
fentanyl.
lot less
Yeah,
fentanyl.
there's a lot less in the fent bottle.
Which is not a great case because it's also cheaper to manufacture, so and more addictive. So that's why they'll lace stuff with it.
Yeah.
Which
Well,
is where
fentanyl's bad enough.
Right.
Doesn't need to be laced.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're lacing fentanyl into other drugs to
Right,
kill
that's-
people
that's
or
kinda
make
where I
things
was
I know
worse.
somebody that got taken away that way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
May they rest in peace. I just
Yeah.
want to add. Very sorry for your loss.
It's okay. I got over it a long time ago.
Okay. All right. So is that it for the discussion, guys, or
That's all I have.
that's all? You have anything to add?
I'm glad
You have
we're
anything to
talking
say?
No
about
further
this.
comments.
Alrighty. Well, I think this has been a successful second episode of this podcast we have going on right here. Bringing on some special guests. I would like to see where it goes on in the future, but. If you would like to end the recording, we can end it by
Any?
just...
Do you do any outro or anything? on
No,
your channel?
no, we don't do any outros. We just say goodbye, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.
See you next time.